Hi, I'm Alistair Kenworthy with the New Zealand Ministry of Health. I'm here talking to Dr. Tom Morton, Nelson Marlborough District Health Board, who's just delivered an address to the SNOMED Expo in Wellington. Tom, thank you very much for speaking to us and for the very entertaining presentation. I'm just wondering, with this much greater volume of information you're getting now, what are the key insights you're getting about your patient population and the people you treat?
Well, for the first time we're actually able to assign a diagnosis to every single patient that comes into the emergency department. So the wealth of information and the ability that we now have to look at that information has increased exponentially. So we're actually able to get a really good cut of why it is that people are attending, what the individual diagnoses are, and in fact what the groups are of diagnoses. But more than that, we're able to tell why certain people are attending at certain times. We're able to look at diagnostic groups and work out why they are in the emergency department and who's looking after them and where they're going to, whether they're being admitted or discharged. So the wealth of information is fantastic. To be honest, we don't have enough time to be able to actually analyse all the data. At the moment it's just very early days looking at the data that we're getting, but we're coming up with some fantastic insights.
Do you find that the benefits are more for managing your population than they are for the direct care of the individual on the day, or is it other two things linked?
No, look, that's very true. There's the individual day-to-day running of the department that sees us entering in these diagnoses, but the population side of things is immensely important because that's something that really informs what level of care that we're giving to the population overall, and then what changes we can actually make to the delivery of that care to actually maybe prevent certain groups from attending the emergency department, to work out better places for them to go, and to put in place situations that may actually mean that they actually can get their care done in a better place than the emergency department, which is really shouldn't be the primary place for certain people getting care.
Do you find now that you have your new information system that you're perhaps the envy of the rest of the hospital, and what do you see the challenges to getting better information throughout the other services in the hospital?
Well, certainly the data coming out is leaps and bounds ahead of what we used to have and what other departments are able to produce. But not just within our own hospital, within the system as a whole. So I've got colleagues in emergency departments elsewhere who are very envious of the level of data that we're actually now able to get out and to be able to drill down into. So this is not just a local phenomenon. Well, certainly had a lot of interest from people in other areas within New Zealand and also in Australia actually.
Do you, embracing the theme of care closer to home, do you see tighter links with the data that you share with GPs? And picking up on the last topic we heard around the wellness data that's captured off wearables, do you see a place for emergency medicine linking to those things?
Well, look, we're integrally involved in this. I mean, we're part of the patient journey, so it starts with the ambulance service, and as you heard also, we are very linked with making sure that the ambulance service data is transmitted into the emergency department. It actually gives us a heads up, and we can actually see presenting complaints come through. That's something that we're working very hard on making sure happens. And then likewise with our information system, we're actually able to send these diagnoses that we make directly to the GP through the system that we use to notify GPs of all presentations, and that's just happening automatically behind the scenes, so doctors don't have to make any extra effort to make sure that diagnoses are getting handed through to other carers in the system.
One last question, Tom. I realise you embarked on this endeavour to have a better information system to better serve your patients, but in the process you've led a movement in New Zealand to SNOMED adoption, and culminating in this conference so far. Have you got any thoughts on where you might take that?
Oh, look, there's always grand designs to enable the entire emergency medicine community to get hold of the sort of stuff that we've been doing. But progress is slow and is really very dependent on having the right information systems embedded within the various hospitals. And I'd love to see the reference set that we've been working on that works for us actually become embedded in other emergency departments around the country, because it's only when we start to talk off the same spreadsheet there and actually use the same terminology, that really big data becomes a really tangible thing. We'd love to be able to have a New Zealand reference set that allows us to do research on a national scale, and I think that's where some enormous population gains are going to come from. At the moment it's just a couple of emergency departments, but we really truly hope to grow that.
Thank you, Dr. Morton.